balls of fire flying in the sky. The roof rack fell off and smashed the car bonnet.
We're looking up and we start seeing these lights.
And this white light shines. The cow shit saved our lives. The Cruz del Sur is Chacana.
Bridge to space.
They have the bases in the stone forest.
It's almost like that frequency is the location.
But that's when the universe reveals its magic. Wales gets pulled back, man, you know what I mean?
Hey, my name is Sebastian and I live in the sacred valley of Peru. I went on an adventure to the ancient ruins of Ollantaytambo and I bumped into a local who shared to me his insights on how aliens may play a big role in the co-creation of this temple. This inspired me and my 2-day brothers, Pablo and Jasper, to dive deep into conversation, sharing our experiences with UFOs and close encounters with ETs. I hope you enjoy the video.
So tell me, what did the guy say about the cosmovision? You met the guy today at Ollantaytambo, and he said a lot about aliens and the moon and the sun and the gates, and I picked up a little bit of it, but what was he sharing?
So I went up to him. He has this shop outside the ruins of Ollantaytambo. And I asked him something about the alien-headed crystal sculptures that he has. And he straight away said, they are all the brothers from the stars, the ones who did this. And he told about the ruins, right? And he said the government, and like, you know, history, his story, who wrote it. And it's very manipulated, you know? He was sharing his point of view on these ruins here, and he's from this land, right? So it's cool to listen. He was saying that in Ollantaytambo, in the ruins, there's the temple of the sun, the Templo del Sol. But really, that's what the Spanish or the like whoever the government who tells the history says. But really, it's not aligned towards the sun. The temple of the sun. If it would be aligned to the sun, it'd be pointing to the east. It's actually perfectly aligned to the star constellation of the Cruz del Sur, the cross of the south.
Wow.
Which and so the ancient pre-Incan civilizations, and until this day there remains this ancient language Quechua from the Andes. And in Quechua, the Cruz del Sur is Chaca, which is bridge, Chacana, which is space, and there's many ways to look at it, but Chacana. So the Cruz del Sur is Chacana.
The bridge to space.
The bridge to space. And it's talked about a lot in Andean cosmovision. And so he said that the Temple of the Sun, they call it the Temple of the Sun, really is the temple of the bridge to space, the Chacana.
Wow.
It's aligned to this star system, constellation. He was telling me about, you see, Inti Punku. So you got the Temple of the Sun in Ollantaytambo, and then you see up in the mountain, there's a 4-hour hike. You get to Inti Punku, the place that we were gonna go today. We will go at some point. I've been there before, and it's this door on the top of a mountain facing the snow peak mountain that's probably like 6,700 meters above sea level, and the door is around 4,000 something meters above sea level on the top of a mountain, you know, just a door, and like a wall like this around, and a door. Who the fuck built a door on the top of a mountain, right? What was the intention? They call it Inti Punku. Inti is sun in Quechua, and Punku is door. So it's like the door of the sun, or the sun gate, or portal. But really that's also aligned to the, more than to the sun, it's aligned to the Cruz del Sur, the Chacana. He says you go through that door, And where'd you go? What's the door? Where does it take you to? They said that something happened, and people who were prepared for whatever happened, they went to the door and it took them, what we were talking about today. They went through the door of Inti Punku and they went back to space. It's a portal. And so now, and he was saying something about they went back to the stars and now we're waiting for their return. Or maybe they never left.
Wow.
And what comes to me from that is a reminder of how magical life is, and that I feel like we're preparing to become this interplanetary civilization, this galactic family, star family.
There's a theory about the Great Pyramid that it was a communication device, and that because of how it aligns to different astrological planets, like there's a point in the sky when Sirius is perfectly aligned through this shaft out of the Great Pyramid. And so they think that it was used to communicate with other planets.
Wow.
And then it got broken. And after the Great Pyramid got broken, we lost contact with all the other star beings that Earth was in contact with at some point in the past.
Yeah. It's like this big cosmic disclosure.
Doesn't where the pyramids are on the plateau look like a circuit board?
Yeah. Yeah, it does look a bit like a circuit board for sure. And if you look from above, the three pyramids are exactly aligned to the shape of Orion's belt.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, it's almost like whatever that event was that happened, like when they built the boxes in the Serapeum and there was some cataclysm, it's like that's when aliens left. They came here, they built Ollantaytambo, they built the pyramids, then some big disaster was happening, and they were like, we're out of here, peace. But humans are of Earth. We can't live off Earth.
Mm-hmm.
So we had to stay. Or maybe some humans left, but many stayed. Somehow they survived underground or in shelters, and then life was reborn, but we lost so much knowledge in that disaster.
Mm-hmm. It's still here.
And everything resets.
Yeah.
And we see the remnants of it.
Maybe they physically needed to leave, but to accompany and guide us from another place, another plane. When I just met Marce and I just bought my car, I didn't have a license. So I went to Huaraz with Marce, with my cousin Mauri and one of our friends, Camila. And we wanted to go camping up in the mountains, you know. It was like one of the biggest intentions when I bought the car, was to go up and see the stars, you know. And so we set off. My cousin drove all the way to Huaraz from Lima, a 9-hour drive. And we got to this like an hour before arriving to Huaraz. We went to, we stopped, we saw this sign saying Hatun Machay. Hatun is, I think it means big, and Machay is like a cave, so big cave. And it called our attention, so we went. We instead of going to Huaraz, we stopped at this place. It was like an hour before, and we arrived at this stone forest, Bosque de Piedras, and it's about 4,700 meters above sea level, freezing cold. I've never experienced any cold like that before. And so we arrive, and there's one house there, just one. It's a massive stone forest. All you can see is stone, massive, huge stones, right? And there was this guy who lived in the house. He's like the keeper of the land. And but no one was there when we arrived. So we drove. I took the Jimny off road. The roof rack fell off and smashed the car bonnet. we had to ditch like some like camping chairs and some like petrol jerry cans, but I was okay with it. The adventure was amazing, and we carried on, and we drove in as far as we could into the stone forest. We set up our tents, and we brought some mushrooms with us. I had a little bit of mushrooms. But to be honest, with the energy of the place, it was like, I mean, you can if you want, but like with the just like the altitude and everything, like it's just such high voltage. We make a fire out of cow poo, dry cow poo, and little twigs that we could find. The cow shit saved our lives. It was so cold, below minus, I don't know, and all water bottles froze and ice cold. The only thing that didn't freeze was a bottle of wine.
Wow.
Yeah, I was surprised. I didn't know wine doesn't freeze like that.
Yeah, lower freezing temperature.
Yeah, and anyways, the night falls. Maybe a few of us are getting like this altitude sickness and going to the tent, and like it was so cold, so I would like lie with Marce with like half our body in the tent, and like the other half just our head sticking out. Bro, the stars, man. The most clearest sky I've ever seen in my life. Like it was red, purple, green. It was like the whole Milky Way was like fired up.
Wow.
And there was meteorites flying, balls of fire flying in the sky. It was amazing. And then Marisu went into the tent, right? And I was the only one left looking up. And before I stick my head in the tent to sleep, I look to the stone forest, like the horizon, and this white light shines the side of the mountain that was next to us. On the side, not coming from above. The light came from deep inside the stone forest. It shined up the mountain as if it was daylight for a second and went back. And I was like, what? That's strange. Anyways, I go back to sleep and I wake up after seeing like the most amazing sky of my life. And the guy who wasn't in the house, this one house, I crossed paths with him in the morning. He was walking his cows. He has this, cowboy hat, maybe 5 foot, like chunky, strong guy. And he's called Antonio Perez. And so I say, Aguianchu papacho, like in Quechua, saying hi, and he's like, hey, and we say hi and greet ourselves, and I ask him some questions. I ask him, hey, hermano, have you, by any chance, you live here, right? Do you seem to see maybe flying saucers in the sky and ships of the older brothers of the stars? Have you seen any UFOs? Any motherships? Any light? And he says to me, you know what he says to me? He says to me with the realest way. He says, yeah, they always fly. They always light up the mountains. Every now and then I walk with my cattle at night and they play around with me. They shine, they light me up, they light the way. They light and they come into the stone forest. They have the bases in the, they call them the Apunians. Apu is spirit protector of the mountains. They call the Apus the mountains, right? Spirit protector of the mountains. So one way is like the actual name of the mountain that they put on the mountain. And it can also mean the spirits of the mountains. Maybe these lights and these extraterrestrials that come down and these campesinos, the farmers always see them. They call them, the Apus, the spirits of the mountains. And we were talking for a while. I was like, wow. And then he does this beautiful dance. He's like, you gotta live life happy. You gotta be happy, he says to me. Love. And he is the most happiest guy, walking his cows at 5 a.m. in the morning in 4,700 meters above sea level, freezing cold, with his whip, and he would dance like this. And I was just like, wow, I felt the biggest smile on my face. That was an amazing encounter. And then I come across this guy, Ricardo Gonzalez Corpancho, who has this show on Gaia TV, right? And he talks about his experiences of ET contact with the Apunians, all in Peru, in Mount Shasta, especially in Peru, Chilca and Huaraz. And I was doing some research, and I found he made a video. This guy, Ricardo Gonzalez Corpancho, has a video on YouTube in Hatumachai with interviewing Antonio Perez, the same farmer, the same guardian of this land. You know, and I crossed paths with him. I'd love to go again and see him, bro, and talk with him, drink a chicha with him.
That's amazing.
So that was cool.
Wow.
Wow.
When I was out in the deserts of Siwa, which is one of the most remote places in Egypt, you have to drive like 5-6 hours out of Cairo into the middle of the desert, and you find this oasis out there where there's just water is bubbling up from underground, and it's created this space where life can grow. And these people, the Siwa people, live there. And they go out in the desert all the time. And I was out there one night, well after dark, and we're looking up, and we start seeing these lights moving. They started like flashing, and then there would be lights moving, and we're looking up, we're like, look, it's UFOs. And that's pretty normal for me these days. But one of the guys who's lived there his entire life, is like, I've never seen this. Like, what is this? You know? It wasn't like it's like, you know, Tesla's, you know, or like Elon's satellites and stuff. Like, it's not anything like that. And we saw 18 that night.
Wow.
Beautiful.
Wow.
I feel like they come out in remote places, almost like the way that like condors don't like the noise of city. It's almost like aliens don't come out in the city, in more populated, congested areas.
And a great point Seb made once, like what you eat, what you put in your body, like, is like what you eat and put in your body is like chooses like the frequency, like where your food comes from, right? And someone was saying, I think it was Seb the other day, was saying like it probably costs them a lot of energy to like lower their vibration to like be able to interact with us. Maybe it's not that they don't want to, you know. So when Seb's talked about like fasting, having certain experiences, I think that's definitely like, it's almost like that frequency is the location.
Yeah.
Thanks for bringing that to the table, because the frequency, they say that, you know, the Galactic Federation of Light, they come as well when they like to present themselves when your heart is open. You know, when your heart is open, without any attachments, presence, you know, that attracts lots of magic. And interesting story about Ricardo Gonzalez Corpancho. He talks about how he went with a group of people. So one day he was meditating and received a date and coordinates. It was to go up to the snow mountain of Huascarán, on the top of the peak, 6,700 meters above sea level.
Sick.
And he goes with a group of people, but telepathically the guides said you have to follow a diet. You can't eat meat, maybe lactose or cheese, no processed foods, you know, clean whole foods, just fruits and like electric food. And so he went up with this group of people, and on that date, to those coordinates, some people followed the diet, some people didn't. And the people who didn't follow the diet, he said that this ship came, and this tall Nordic-looking a humanoid being as like standing like around like on the peak of the mountain, right? On this snow peak. And the people who didn't follow the diet started feeling nausea. They couldn't hold the energy.
Oh, wow.
So I feel maybe how after doing the 7-day water fast and having that contact, which we'll get into it at some point, I think that I was like, I didn't know that was going to happen, but I feel like I was prepared for that moment to hold that energy. And even then I couldn't, there was a certain point where it was so much. I was like, thank you, but then I can't hold more, and it left. Such, how much light can we hold in our energy field?
Like life force. Because like, what I mean by that is, I'm sure it's not just a meat thing.
Mm-hmm.
Like I'm sure from like a balanced perspective, it's probably like where meat comes from, or where you're like the industry of like cheese and milk or whatever. But it's probably just easier for them to be like in the message like, no meat.
I mean, meat is also really grounding, even if it's really well raised. So it's like, I believe that. I think that like a fruit diet, a very like plant-based diet is the most like aligned diet for spiritual connection, for, for vision, connection with other beings. Like that is it. And even better than that is fasting, right?
Yeah.
But then there's a balance where it's like, okay, you need some nutrients so your body can process things and move energy. And so finding that balance of like light, like plants and fruit especially are just absorbing light. They're light, And so it's just like light turned into material form.
Or like the
So
photosynthesis, like manifestation of matter.
Exactly. They're turning light into matter. And so that is the closest for us to consume food and still be the most light.
Minerals are frequencies of light. Light food, fruits, electricity with bioelectrical beings. But we're not always supposed to be up there.
No.
We gotta come down, bridge, balance.
That's where you eat more dense foods to ground, to be more human.
Like ancient heirloom potatoes.
Exactly.
Good quality meat.
That probably says a lot about where those messages and those beings come from. Like what that plane of existence is like.
Yeah.
So it's
They
mad.
don't eat a lot of meat up there.
Yeah, John was mad that some taitas and some abuelos in like the jungle have like fried pork before certain ayahuasca ceremonies.
Can't
It's like,
believe
I
that.
can't believe that. Just
Yeah.
different relationships with plant medicine
Yeah.
Wow.
bro, I felt like them shipi or icaros on the medicine were like biological technology, bro. Like obviously if you're connected with the medicine like that, you probably can eat fried pork in it.
Probably. There's a story of a taita, someone who serves an ayahuasquero in the jungle, and he sings this icaro, and all the bats fly out of the mountain and circle the Mallorca, and as soon as he stops singing, they all fly away.
Bro, I believe it, man.
Wow.
Things I've been seeing like on the vision quests and like the harmony and like the synchronization between people and the environment, like when it's full of like great intention, but that's when the universe like reveals its magic, veils, gets pulled back, man. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So everything, these films like Avatar, I seen like this moment when he like brings the blessings with the feather, and like she's like, yeah, we can celebrate, and all the birds start singing. I was like, wow, this is what Avatar wants to be.
Yeah.
Like it tries to portray, man, is like this connection between people and the land, man. And like while we're talking about meat, I feel like it's mad because there's such a disconnection between like killing your food and eating it, right? But I feel like if more people experience that, the outlook on like meat it'd be a different relationship. I'm not saying get rid of it, just a completely different relationship with your food, man.
And there's a gratitude when you know where your food came from, and an even deeper gratitude when you grew your own food. And I think that is true for plants and it's true for animals. And there's so much disconnection. There's even more disconnection from raising animals these days.
Man, it's almost like there's some honor and responsibility in being part of the circle. I'm gonna just make sure somewhere
Stuff don't get wet.
How mad is it that the whole time we've been sat here, the rain has just like gone around and gone down there? Look.
Wow.
Wow.